I never thought I would be the kind of man writing something like this online, but here I am. Maybe it's therapy, maybe it's just a way to make sense of everything. What I'm about to share is something that still keeps me awake at night. I met my wife, Anna, when I was 25. She was radiant, the type of person who could walk into a room and immediately become the center of gravity. Not because she demanded attention, but because she had this energy, bright, warm, intoxicating. We met at a friend's birthday party, and for me, it was one of those cliché love at first sight moments. I couldn't take my eyes off her, and when she laughed, I knew I'd do anything just to hear that sound again. We dated for 2 years before I proposed, and our wedding was the happiest day of my life. We weren't perfect, nobody is, but we had this rhythm, this comfort between us. She would leave me little notes in my lunch bag. I would surprise her with coffee runs before work. We were best friends, lovers, partners. Life moved forward. We bought a modest house in the suburbs, adopted a golden retriever, and settled into a routine. I worked in IT for a mid-sized company, while she worked as a marketing manager at a firm downtown. Her job was demanding, with frequent deadlines and occasional late nights at the office. But I trusted her, completely. The first crack, though tiny, showed itself one Thursday evening. She came home later than usual, cheeks flushed, hair a little messy, and when I asked how her day was, she gave me this oddly short, clipped answer. Normally, she would go on about her projects, her boss, the office drama, but that night, she shrugged and went straight upstairs to shower. It was small, insignificant even, but something about the way she avoided my eyes stuck with me. I brushed it off. Everyone has off days. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe she didn't want to talk about work. I told myself not to overthink, and yet a seed of doubt was planted. The second time it happened, it was after a team happy hour. She texted me around 10 p.m. saying she'd be home soon, but soon turned into nearly 1 a.m. When she walked through the door, she smelled faintly of whiskey and perfume that wasn't hers. I kissed her cheek, and she stiffened, just slightly, but enough for me to notice. "Did you have fun?" I asked. "Yeah, it was fine, just drinks," she replied quickly, dropping her bag on the floor. And again, straight upstairs, shower, bed. It wasn't like her. Normally, she'd crawl into bed and tell me every ridiculous thing her coworkers said. But that night, silence. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. She had always been loyal. She loved me. I was sure of it. I didn't want to be the insecure husband snooping around or asking too many questions. That wasn't me. But something in my gut, it whispered that something was off. The night everything truly began to unravel started with a vibration on the kitchen counter. Anna was upstairs, showering again, when her phone buzzed. Normally, I wouldn't even think twice. Her phone was her business and mine was mine. But the screen lit up, and without meaning to, my eyes caught the preview of a message. It wasn't a full sentence, just a snippet, but it was enough. "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you." My chest tightened instantly. My heart was in my throat. I froze, staring at those words as if they were burning themselves into my brain. Her phone locked itself after a few seconds, leaving me staring at the black screen and my own reflection. I felt like someone had just sucker-punched me. I didn't know what to do. My hands were shaking. Was it a joke? A mistake? Maybe it wasn't even what it looked like. Maybe it was a friend teasing? No, the tone was too intimate, too deliberate. When Anna came downstairs, towel wrapped around her hair, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. She smiled at me. Forced, maybe? Or was I imagining it? She kissed my cheek lightly and moved to pour herself a glass of wine. "Long day?"
I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, really long. Just glad to be home," she said casually, almost rehearsed. I wanted to confront her right then. I wanted to grab the phone, shove it in her face, and demand an explanation. But something stopped me. Fear. Not just fear of the truth, but fear of what it would mean if I was right, if everything I believed about our marriage was a lie. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to her slow, steady breathing beside me. I kept thinking about the text, replaying it over and over, trying to imagine scenarios where it could be innocent. But no matter how I twisted it, the words were damning. The following week, I noticed more things, tiny details I had ignored before. She started leaving the room to answer calls. Her late nights at the office increased. When she came home, she was more distracted, less affectionate. Once, she came through the door with a faint red mark on her neck. I asked what it was, and she brushed it off with a laugh. "Oh, probably from my necklace rubbing too much." But she wasn't wearing a necklace that night. I told myself I needed proof. Cold, undeniable proof. Otherwise, maybe, just maybe, I was losing my mind. So I did something I never thought I would. I checked her phone while she was in the shower. My hands were sweating, guilt churning in my stomach, but my need for the truth overpowered everything else. And there it was. A string of messages from a contact saved as C. Playful, flirty, explicit. Plans to meet, references to things they had already done. I felt my entire world collapse around me. The name C didn't mean much at first, until I remembered the stories she told about her office. There was a man named Chris, her boss. The one she'd always described as pushy but brilliant. The one she used to roll her eyes about when venting after work. Now I knew why she was coming home so late, why she showered the second she walked through the door, why she avoided my eyes. It wasn't stress. It wasn't deadlines. It was him.
I don't think anything in my life has ever felt as surreal as reading those texts. It was like standing on a cliff edge, staring into the abyss. One wrong move, and everything I thought I knew about my life would shatter beyond repair. I closed her phone before she got out of the shower, placed it exactly where it had been, and sat there in silence. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. When she came downstairs later, smiling like nothing was wrong, I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from screaming. For the next few days, I played along. I acted normal, cooked dinner, asked about her day. But beneath the surface, I was unraveling. Every laugh she gave me felt fake. Every kiss goodnight felt like a performance. And yet, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Why? I wish I had a simple answer. Maybe it was fear of losing her. Maybe it was denial, some desperate hope that if I ignored it long enough, it would go away. Or maybe I wanted to catch her red-handed, with no way out, no excuses she could spin. So I became someone I didn't recognize. I checked her phone whenever I could. I started memorizing her excuses, looking for holes in her stories. I even drove past her office once, just to see if her car was there when she claimed to be working late. Spoiler, it wasn't. The breaking point came one Friday night. She said she was meeting a client for dinner, which struck me as odd because she never had client dinners on Fridays. Something in my gut screamed that this was it. So, I followed her. I waited until she left the house, then drove a few cars behind, careful not to get too close. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. She didn't drive toward any restaurant I knew. Instead, she parked near a hotel, a cheap one, the kind people use when they don't want to be seen.
And then I saw him, Chris, her boss. Tall, confident, walking straight up to her like he owned her. She smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen in years. Wide, genuine, almost glowing. She kissed him before they even got inside. My stomach turned. My chest felt like it was being crushed in a vice. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white, every fiber of my being screaming at me to storm out of the car, to rip her away from him, to demand answers. But I didn't. I sat there, frozen, watching my wife disappear into a hotel room with another man. And in that moment, something inside me broke. The denial was gone. The hope was gone. All that remained was a cold, empty clarity. She was cheating on me. She had chosen him. And I had to decide what to do with that truth. When I came home that night, the world around me felt unfamiliar. Our house, our dog, the photos on the walls, everything looked like stage props for a play where I was no longer the lead. I was just a background character in my own life. She came in around midnight, her hair slightly messy, her perfume mixed with something else. Tired client, long dinner, the same rehearsed line again. I nodded, without saying a word. But inside, I was boiling. I sat in the kitchen, staring into an empty glass, running two scenarios over and over in my mind. The first, to throw it all in her face tomorrow. Pull up the text messages, tell her I saw them with my own eyes, and watch her expression change the moment she realized the lies were over. Let it all crash down here and now. The second, to play her game a little longer. Stay silent. Collect evidence. Find out how long this had been going on. Maybe even talk to a lawyer. If she destroyed our marriage, then she would pay for it properly, with no chance of wriggling out. I watched her as she sat across from me, scrolling through her phone. She laughed at some picture, and I caught myself thinking, once, that laugh was my favorite sound in the world. Now, it cut through me like a knife. And in that moment, I realized the truth. There was no way back. The only question left was how exactly I would bring this story to an end. The decision came to me on a Sunday morning, quiet and ordinary on the surface. She was still asleep, curled up on her side, looking peaceful, almost innocent, but I knew better now. I couldn't keep living in limbo, pretending, bleeding inside every time she smiled at me with those same lips she used to kiss another man. So, I made my choice. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't even going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. No, I would end this with clarity, with evidence, and with control. That week, while she thought I was working late, I met with a lawyer. I showed him the screenshots, explained the situation. He listened, nodded, and gave me a plan. Cold, efficient, final. When Friday came, the same kind of Friday she usually disappeared into her client dinners, I was ready. I followed her again, watched her slip into that same cheap hotel with Chris, and this time, I didn't sit in my car. I walked inside. The receptionist barely looked up when I asked for their room number, pretending I was running late. When I reached the door, I didn't even hesitate. I knocked, firmly. For a moment, silence, then muffled voices, movement. Finally, The door cracked open, and there she was, my wife. Her face went pale the instant she saw me. Behind her, Chris stood half-dressed, frozen. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized that whatever bond we once had was already dead. "I know everything," I said calmly, "and this is the last time you'll ever lie to me." I handed her the envelope with the divorce papers I'd been carrying. Her hands trembled as she took it. She tried to speak, but no words came out. I didn't wait for an explanation. There was nothing she could say that would matter anymore. I turned, walked out of that hotel, and for the first time in months, I felt free. Yes, the pain was still there. Yes, my world had been torn apart, but now at least the lie was over. And sometimes the end of a story is the only way to start living again.